American Sports Cavalcade. A panorama of speed, color, drama, and excitement. The American Sports Cavalcade.
Say hello to a top fuel dragster. At rest, its sleek lines and arrow shape only hint at the awesome potential of these incredible drag racing machines. But fire one up, and the thunder of 3,000 horses of nitro-burning, supercharged power leaves no doubt why the drag racing fans call these landlocked missiles the kings of the sport. Throughout the history of drag racing, the dragster has always been the performance leader, the quickest and fastest vehicle to cover the quarter mile. But the Top Fuel dragster's appeal to fans is more than performance, evolving from bodiless roadsters called rail jobs through the front-engine diggers to today's rockets. The dragster has represented the ultimate expression of drag racing's philosophy, run what you brung. Hi, I'm Brock Yates. I'll tell you what, based on the past performances here at Gainesville, I can practically guarantee you more record-shattering runs, not only in Top Fuel, but in Pro Stock and the funny cars as well. And for more on all that, let's go to my pal, Steve Evans.
Brock, the big story in Pro Stock is, unfortunately, one of disappointment. The #2 driver in the world last year and #1 so far this season, that is Warren Johnson, failed to qualify his Oldsmobile into the field. When I talked to him at the end of the racetrack, he was trying to be philosophical about it.
This stuff will make you humble, won't it?
One day chicken, the next day feathers. You won the Winter Nationals if you're not even in the field.
It has been a strange week, and we've been at 2 consecutive years here where we just couldn't get down this particular racetrack. We don't know why. We've tried every conceivable combination. We've rented the track, and it's just this particular car just refuses to go down this racetrack. I don't really know why.
I'm sure you'll be back.
No doubt about it.
But in funny car, the quick get quicker. World champion Kenny Bernstein, who already owned the national laps time record at 5:48, has lowered it to a 5.47. He still needs that required 1% backup run. The most frightening moment so far here at the Gatornationals occurred in funny car qualifying yesterday. It involved Billy Meyer. On his burnout, a fiery, violent blower explosion. Fortunately, Billy was unhurt, and later the two of us surveyed the damage. One of the worst blower explosions that I have personally ever witnessed on the starting line. You can see the supercharger is in 2 distinct pieces, and the guts, the impellers, have spilled out here. But this heavy-duty steel protective cage around it kept just about everything on the motor, Billy.
Yeah, it did. We did this 2 weeks ago when we were doing some testing at the Motorplex. It did a very similar deal, except it did put a concussion and tear the tin out and put it in my lab.
Well, this windshield is shattered. The dash is torn out of this car. This crew will have it back in the morning, right?
Oh, there won't be any problem at all.
But the big problem is you've got to look inside and find out why it happened.
No doubt about it. It's obvious that there's only about one thing that could be wrong at that point, and that is ignition in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Well, let's hope you find it.
I hope so, too.
Unfortunately for the Meyer team, they did not find the problem, and in round #1, again, a supercharger explosion, this one not quite so violent. On a more upbeat note, Don the Snake Prudhomme is back, and his first win light of the '87 season came at the expense of his arch rival, Tom the Mongoose McEwen. Prudhomme enjoyed it. Don Prudhomme's first win light on his comeback career. Congratulations. It's got to feel good.
Thank you. It's good to be back, really. You know, paired me up against the Mongoose first round. That's kind of strange.
Like old times.
Yeah, sure was. We just got to get some more runs on the car.
Has coming back been more difficult maybe than you anticipated, Don?
Well, certainly. It's been quite difficult, but I got a great crew, and we've been out testing in between national events, Bakersfield and our, home track and so on.
A 570 on that effort.
Well, it's decent, especially the way it ran through the middle of the course. I think we can go a little quicker.
In Top Fuel qualifying, the Florida fans got a real treat. One of their own, young Gwynn from Miami, set the all-time world record at 5.22 seconds. How important was that record to him? Take a look at this. Of all the men and women who have ever traveled the quarter mile, this is the quickest of them all. 5:22, Gwynn.
I can't believe it. I'll tell you what, when I left the starting line, I just knew it was flying. I'll tell you, in front of my hometown people, this is the greatest. I don't know how I could get any better than this.
I don't think it does. You put this car on a diet. Obviously, it worked out. You've got 250 pounds off it since the last outing.
Yeah, we've got about that much weight out of it, but we didn't think it'd make that much of a difference. But just getting the motor sorted out is what made the difference.
One big story developed very quickly in Top Fuel. Earlier today, round one action, Big Daddy Don Garlits versus Shirley Muldowney. Shirley Muldowney streaked to victory as Garlits smoked the tires. Shirley Muldowney's favorite way to start a Sunday is to beat Don Garlits in round one. You did it, lady.
Yeah, I guess we did. No, they did it.
A nice 5:49.
That's not too bad. Now we'll get a chance to tune it up for a change.
You know, you had so much horsepower in qualifying, you were actually smoking the tires in the middle of the course. Have you solved that problem?
Yeah. We did something, and I'm not going to tell you what it was, Steve.
Speed secrets abound.
Yeah, for sure. That one was for Keith.
All right, our sponsor, Keith Harvey. Then I talked with a less than pleased Don Garlits. But Don, after smoking the tires on those final two qualifying runs, did you go to the starting line just kind of hoping it would stick?
Well, I thought it would. Something happened to it. It got oil on it.
Oil on the tires, possibly?
Yeah, something went wrong with it.
So Don Garlits out in round number one. That'll make the Florida fans unhappy. And another big story, Brock, concerns the crowd itself. As you know, not a single ticket was sold on race day because they were all gone by Saturday afternoon. And if I was these folks, I think I'd try to find a seat because round two action is coming up.
Better believe it. An official crowd today of 43,000 fans. Could hardly ask for a nicer day for the competition. Not too hot, not too humid.
A total crowd for 3 days, Brock, of 102,000. Drag racing alive and well here at the NHRA Motorcraft Gatornationals. This is the first race in round two of Top Fuel. You're looking at Joe Amato's canopy cockpit, and they're doing his burnout. From Southern California is Larry Sutton. Amato with a brand new car, and it is as nice as he's ever had, Brock.
Well, Steve, you remember Amato right here on this strip was the first man to break 260 miles an hour with that very high wing that has now become absolutely standard equipment on every Top Fuel dragster in the country.
Joe Amato, definitely the innovator. He's from Old Forge, Pennsylvania, was the 1984 NHRA World Champion. His competition is Larry Sutton from Southern California. Sutton is a fine driver, but has raced very occasionally the past few years. Just recently, this new team from the West Coast, Whitmore and Reed, came along. One of the partners hopes to drive the car eventually, but they needed a shoe for the Gator Nationals, and Sutton was more than happy to oblige.
Well, he beat Bob Strauss in the first round, while Joe Amato got by Hank Enders to get this far. Notice now Joe using the canopy that is becoming more and more common in Top Fuel cars. Of course, we saw that first here with Don Garlits last season. So the Gator Nationals tends to be one of the first major meets of the season. You see a lot of new equipment showing up out here.
That's right. It used to be the NHRA Winter Nationals out on the West Coast, and now there's not much time between the end and the beginning of the season. So this is really a treat for the Eastern fans. And a lot of them, of course, from the South, but many people coming down from Maryland, Pennsylvania, New York. They're staged and ready. Race one, round two, Top Fuel, Joe Amato, Larry Sutton. Amato in the near lane shows his strength on the top end of the quarter mile, covering 1,320 feet in 5.32 seconds, 276 miles per hour. Joe Amato advances to the third round. Here in the Shirley Muldowney pits, Ron Tobler, son John on the far side of the car, getting ready for their round two race against Darrell Gwynn, the world's quickest.
Well, the place is packed here at Gainesville, and all the fans just watched Joe Amato go 276 miles an hour. Steve is with him.
They say speed doesn't matter in this sport, Joe, but it tells you one thing, that you've got a lot of horsepower. You just ran faster than anyone has all weekend, 276.
Steve, this motor's gone 270, over 270 the last 6 rounds. You know, Tim Richards has been doing an outstanding job. We've got a combination here that I think will run 280 sometime this year. Whether we'll be the first to do it, we'll see.
And here's that word again, consistency, another 532.
Well, that's what's going to win this race. I told Tim yesterday, give me 4 532s and I'll drive and win the race.
Well, that's 2 of them.
Joe Amato, a determined young man. That is Tim Richards, his crew chief, as we get ready for more round two action. A burnout by Dick Le Haie, and trouble with his opponent, Steve.
It looks like Dan Pastorini has got problems. That car has not been started yet. He had behind the starting line problems at the first race out in California. The Winter Nationals was unable to compete, and it looks like lightning may indeed strike twice in the same place. Now, the starter is attached. They're priming the fuel injector. Pastorini is helpless strapped in that car. He may not even know for sure what's going on. All he can hope is that he hears the thunder. There it is. That car is running. Dick Le Haie will have an opponent after all. But you know, Le Haie is building a lot of heat in his engine now, Brock.
Well, these two cars, of course, Dan, the football star, former one at least, now one of the youngest, as it were, of Top Fuel drivers going against one of the real veterans. Both these cars now carrying major sponsorship that they did not have last year. So these teams well financed. They worked on a shoestring for a long time. Dan Pastorini, what a great football star, and now on his way to being a great drag racer. Dick Le Haie, a real veteran, and now a major contender in all NHRA competition.
Dick Le Haie from Michigan, his daughter Kim, you just saw, leave the picture there on the left. They have got, as you said, a new sponsor. So they took a lot of that money and they have built an engine that's far stronger than anything they've had before. The dual magnetos, the dual fuel pumps, the new Keith Black block that's much taller, allows you to run a longer stroke. It may take Le Haie a while to get used to all this power, Brock. I mean, he's going to get it, obviously, but it might throw his balance off just a bit. Now, Pastorini, who was held up back there for a long time, rushed to the starting line to not inconvenience and overheat Dick Le Haie's engine. Pastorini is off the mark first. That quarterback pool shows Pastorini, Dick Le Haie. It is Pastorini, and Brocky ran a slower elapsed time and won. A 5:45 for Dan, a 5:44 for Dick.
Great drag race. Hate to see anybody lose a competition like this. This is about as good as it gets. Look at those guys. As you said, Le Haie leaves just a wink slower, but it looks as if he's got a little bit of an edge at half track. But Dan, the big power of Dan Pastorini pays off in a very close finish. 271 miles an hour, 270 for the winner, as Dan Pastorini moves on to the semifinals.
Did you know for sure you had won that race?
Yeah, I did. It was real close the whole way. I think I got a little hole shot on him, and it was just wheel to wheel the whole way. When I was telling Jimmy just now a minute ago, I hit the lockout clutch, and it seemed to pull on him a little bit. Then he started gaining on me, and then I shifted and hit the lean out button, and it started picking up on him right there at the end. But it was a good race. I don't like too many races like that. As long as I'm on this side of the fence, it's different.
You've really been concentrating, even in qualifying, on getting good starts, and it's paying off for you.
Well, you know, every little bit helps. In this game, it's a matter of milliseconds and inches. And the more that I can do in that driver's seat and to help these guys out, I mean, they're doing all the work. I'm having the fun. They're doing all the work, and they're doing a great job.
We're having a lot of fun watching you into the semifinals.
You got it. Thanks.
Dan Pastorini referring to his new crew chief, Jim Bursett, who has done a fantastic job with that car. All right, this is the first half of a matchup that we talked about earlier. That is Gwynn, the young man who in qualifying set an all-time low ET record, 5:22. He will go against Shirley Muldowney. Now, she has an afternoon full of Floridians that she's had to face. Remember, a little bit earlier, she in round number 1 disposed of the man sometimes known as the Swamp Rat.
You know those international signs you see all over the place that mean know something, the circle with the bar through it for people that maybe don't speak the language? Take a look at this. From the time Shirley Muldowney was able to defeat Don Garlick and get back to her pits, some ingenious fans had already posted this on her trailer. Not hard to figure out, right? Wouldn't be too popular with people around here. It means no swamp rats. But there's another sign here I hope never has the circle in the bar. It's that one right there.
Well, we gotta love that. There is Shirley inside her new enclosed canopy. She's going to get ready to go. Yet another dry hop here, Steve.
That's right, Buck. And this is a brand new race car. She's very proud of it. The first one she's had with the enclosed canopy, all kinds of neat little nuts and bolts on it. Gwynn backing up very slowly, looking at his engine temperature gauge. They like to go to the line about 160 to 180 degrees. Gwynn, who competed for so long in the alcohol dragster class, was runner-up to the World Championship won by Don Garlick last year. This car looks significantly different than it did at the Winter Nationals. They've removed the fairing and canopies and all kinds of things trying to lighten it up. And apparently it worked. Witness that 5:22 in qualifying. You just saw Ron Tobler there feeling the engine heat. Anodized, beautiful front wheels on Shirley's car. A very nicely turned out race car.
Gwynn running the small front wheels that have become pretty much standard practice with some of the faster cars. He's running a big front spoiler on the front of that car too, Steve.
He is, Buck, because the car wanted to wheel stand at half track. They are staged and ready. Gwynn is away first. Few men have ever gotten away from Shirley Muldowney up the starting line, but Gwynn just did. And And Brock, that record of 5:22 is now official. There is the backup of 5:26 at 267 miles an hour to Shirley Muldowney's 5:58.
Remember now, the NHRA requires that you run within 1% of the low time to make it an official record, and Darrell Gwynn just did that. You're seeing now the second half of the fastest low ET ever run in drag racing.
Well, Darrell, that pass will earn you some bonus World Championship points. You backed up the record with a 5:26.
Woo! I can't believe it. I'll tell you what, the heat of the day, 5:26 in front of my hometown fans. This Bud's for you.
A little bit of heaven, huh?
You bet. This is heaven right here.
Tell me about the ride itself. Did you see Shirley at all down the course?
No, I never did. Matter of fact, I had to hold the brake in low gear because it spun the tires on the dry burnout. But we got 2 more rounds to go.
So you were using the brake as an acceleration tool, really?
It smoked the tires on the dry. My dad told me when I backed up in the dry burnout just to tug on the brake just a tiny bit. So that's what we did, and it worked.
Great job.
Thank you.
Well, his dad, Jerry, a long-time drag racer himself, and that advice certainly paid off. All right, let's go to the next pairing. That is Eddie Hill from Texas, and they seem to be having problems with his engine, Steve.
It looks that way. A lot of people hovered around. You'll know everything's okay when you see that little squirt bottle. There it is, pumping some fuel into the injector to get the engine spinning over, and it lights cleanly. Eddie has been running better than he ever has, really, so he's got to feel awfully good about this Gator Nationals event. He also has added the canopy there, Brock, and the drivers tell me they can't believe the difference that makes, even though it's just then plastic. In the noise level inside the car, they can really hear the engine better and tell how many cylinders are firing and maybe things they need to do. And also, it's a bit of a safety factor. You might get a piece come off another car, and it would glance off of that instead of getting in the cockpit. Eventually, Brock, I'm sure you're going to see all of these top fuel dragsters equipped with some kind of a cockpit canopy.
All right, Eddie Hill's opponent is the agribusiness entrepreneur from California, Larry Minor, the man who fielded as many 3 cars in drag racing.
That's right. He's down to 2 this year. Here is Eddie Hill, a former boat racer. In fact, he was the fastest ever on the liquid quarter mile from Wichita Falls, Texas. And his wife, Ursi, enjoys drag racing maybe even more than Eddie does, Brock. I think if Eddie tried to retire, she wouldn't allow it.
Remember, he beat Connie Coletta in the first round, so he is on a roll. Eddie Hill running, as you said, better than ever with this beautiful new automobile, again with the small front wheels. That trend is just catching on like wildfire across the top fuel ranks.
Well, they're lighter, and also you have better steering control, Brock, than you do with the kind of wheels on the front of Larry Minor's car here. You see them very carefully inching those cars forward into the staging beams, which light some small bulbs on the top of the Christmas tree. Everything's lit, and they're off. It is Eddie Hill out first. Eddie Hill with a nice hole shot, but the power goes away. Larry Minor comes around. Oh, boy, 5:32. The same elapsed time Joe Amato ran, 268 miles per hour.
Okay, so we've got the semifinal pairing set now. It'll be Minor versus Joe Amato. Minor has a lane choice in that matchup, believe it or not. And the other pair, Darrell Gwynn versus the football star Dan Pastorini.
Gwynn has lane choice because he ran quicker than Pastorini in the round we just saw. There is Don the Snake Verdone. He knows that today he has the opportunity to prove to everyone in the sport of drag racing the Snake is back.
I'm Brock Gates, along with Steve Evans, back at the NHRA Motorcraft Gatornationals in Gainesville, Florida, where we watch Dan Pastorini's crew wrenching that car, getting ready for a major matchup against Darrell Gwynn.
Brock, there's not a motel room available within 50 miles of Gainesville. A lot of this crowd has come from all over the country to enjoy this event. It now exceeds the University of Florida homecoming as far as a revenue source for this pretty little town. There he is, the funny car world champion, Kenny Bernstein. And there is his opponent, Doc Holliday, St. Paul, Minnesota. Doc has been racing for years, but on a regional basis in match racing. He's starting to get serious and says he plans to go to all the NHRA national events this year. He operates a manufacturing business. In fact, he makes race car trailers, and there's a lot of them here in the pits.
Well, Steve, he's got his work cut out for him now because Bernstein, as we know, has just run so consistently, and I would imagine has to be listed as the odds-on favorite here in Funny Car.
That is a brand new Buick LeSabre body the fans are seeing for the first time here at Gainesville, and it's got a lot of aerodynamic tricks. Again, wind tunnel tested by Dale Armstrong. Kenny Bernstein, a native of Texas, now living in Newport Beach, California, and Doc Holliday, as we said, from the cold country of Minnesota. Good guy. Mounted on the tube frame of Doc Holliday's car is a fiberglass replica of an '87 Dodge Daytona body.
Well, now don't forget, this is second round action. In the first round, Bernstein beat Tom Hoover, and Doc Holliday got by John A. Martin. So, as we said, Doc's got his hands full with this man.
He's also got an opportunity to surprise any doubting Thomases there may be as to his performance, because the Doc has run real well. He qualified right in the middle of the pack. If Bernstein makes the slightest mistake, the Doc will bite him.
Well, he certainly has plenty of experience, and I doubt that he's overly intimidated by the reputation that Bernstein and his crew bring to this line.
Let's not forget that Kenny has a chance here, as his teammate Gwynn did, to back up a new national record, that 5.47 he ran in qualifying. He'll have to run within 1% of it. The starter is Buster Couch, as he has been for a couple of decades now. He's eyeballing both cars. He'll make sure they're staged and ready before he flips that switch, and they're away. Bernstein with a beautiful hole shot. Kenny Bernstein, 0.05 of a second in the bank when he left the starting line, and it's Bernstein wire to wire, but no new record. 5:59 at 263 miles an hour. Doc Holliday just kind of shut it off to save the motor at 5.95.
Nothing he could do about that as we go to the next pairing. That is Ed McCulloch out of California with the Larry Minor team coming to the line. He is going to face John Force, the man who has been a runner-up 7 times in NHRA national meets and has yet to come home with the trophy. Now Kenny's out of the car. Let's talk with him.
Well, it appears to me that this man, Kenny Bernstein, is far more interested in winning this drag race than he is in setting any records. A 5:59, good, solid run.
Well, it is, Steve. You know, winning is what it's all about when at the end of the rainbow, that world championship. And if you get a record along the way, that's fine, but we're here to win today.
Is that all this racetrack will take?
It's pretty close. I was all over pretty loose, and Dale and I just felt pretty much that was about all she was going to take, at least right now.
You got to be proud of your teammate. Gwynn has backed up that record in top field.
Well, that's great for him. Like you say, when you get the records, there's nice, but he needs to win a race today, too, just like we do.
Okay.
Between he and Dale Armstrong, perhaps the best disciplined team in funny car competition, as we watch the two competitors, John Force in the far lane and Ed McCulloch, complete their burn-ups and get ready to go. Could be an interesting matchup, Steve.
Ed McCulloch, who drives for Larry Minor out of San Jacinto, California, has been, at least so far this season, the closest man to Kenny Bernstein. Californian John Force, like Billy Meyer, has been plagued with burnout blower explosions. 6 weeks ago at the Winter Nationals, watch the fuel injector. The butterflies right in the center of the hood there. As soon as they come open, kaboom, it happened 3 times in a row. Earlier, I visited John's pits to see what solutions maybe they were finding. This is the supercharger and fuel injector off of John Force's car. Now, Force at the Winter Nationals had 3 successive blower explosions on the burnout. That's expensive, that's dangerous, and it happened again here in qualifying. Crew Chief Austin Coyle, trying to prevent that from happening, now is only using 1 magneto on the burnout for some rather complex reasons, but it does work apparently so far. If it should explode, as it did yesterday, they now have a special one-of-a-kind blower manifold built by Sid Waterman. You see that metal plate in there? It's made out of magnesium, and it is built to pop out and let all that pressure out instead of blowing the blower off of the manifold. And they tried it yesterday, unfortunately, but the blower did indeed stay down. So John says this is one of the best safety things to come along for him in a long time.
So the way this will work is the crew will lift the body up and rehook the second magneto. There you see it being done. John has completed his burnout, as Steve said, with a single magneto. Now he'll run with the 2 magnetos to supply that monster charge of voltage that's necessary to ignite these monster engines.
I'll tell you, 3 blower explosions like that, that's about $30,000 worth of damage to an automobile. Nothing gets John Force down. If that didn't do it, nothing ever will.
Well, Force, one of the great competitors, such a tough, such a determined competitor, and everybody in drag racing hopes that he'll grab that brass ring one day and bring home a major NHRA championship. He certainly deserves it.
You see the roof hatch being fastened down on Ed McCulloch's car. They open them now because the cars are completely sealed up, and that's the only way they get any fresh air or let some of that burnout smoke out through the roof. Now, both of these cars are Oldsmobile body. You can tell by the number 4 in John Force's case. That's where he finished in the points last year. He was number 4 in the world. Kenny Bernstein, of course, wears the number 1.
There you see John Force nosing his Oldsmobile into the staging beams. Ed McCulloch will follow shortly in the foreground. Here he comes, thereby activating this very complex and very accurate timing system here used in major NHRA events.
Okay, they are pre-staged. Only the top lights are on. Now McCulloch's exactly positioned. Force taking his time as well he should. They're ready, and they're off. John Boris appeared to move first. John Boris off the line, but here comes McCulloch. It is McCulloch by a clean car length with the quickest elapsed time of the day. A 5:58 at 265 miles per hour. Some real strength from Ed McCulloch.
Absolutely. Even though John Force had the better reaction time, as you said, and appeared to have it in hand for the first 100 feet or so, but then by half track, it was the big horsepower and the excellent traction of Ed, the ace McCulloch's Oldsmobile, that pulled it out at 265 miles an hour.
Well, Ed, were it not for a last-second charge by this car, we might not be talking. It was close, but you're in a 5:58.
Well, the thing's capable of running real good. The way the clutch and everything's working, it's hard to leave good, but it's real soft down low. The racetrack's not great, you know, at the start line, so we can't really hop it up. But here we are. Let's go.
How important is lane choice going to be? It looks like you'll have it.
Right now, we didn't have lane choice on this last run, Steve, but, you know, obviously you'd like to have lane choice, and hopefully we'll maintain it.
You think the lanes are equal, though?
I think this round they were.
Thanks, Ed.
Well, with that kind of an ET, Ed McCulloch can afford to be a little bit casual about the lane choice. That was outrun.
Drag racing is hard work. Here is Daryl Gwynn's motor completely apart as they prepare for the semifinals in Top Fuel. We'll be back with more funny car action.
Boy, the house is packed here in Gainesville, Florida for the NHRA Motorcraft Gatornationals. Look at those fans. Couldn't get another one in the place as we go down to the McCulloch pit area where the engine has been totally torn down, but very routine stuff, really, Steve.
Well, that's Ace on the left. He's not one of those drivers that sits in the air-conditioned lounge. He's in there pounding with everybody else. Look at this beautiful automobile of Jim Head, a former NHRA U.S. Nationals champion. Is that a pretty funny car?
Beautiful. And out of Columbus, Ohio, where Jim Head is an engineer, he is going to go against the famed Hawaiian with Johnny West on board. A very potent combination.
And a very talented car owner and crew chief in Roland Leal. Probably no single car owner has sent his funny car down the quarter mile more times than Roland Leal. In fact, I'm sure of that.
Well, remember, before he ran funny cars, he was a major campaigner with Top Fuel cars with a man by the name of Don the Snake Prudhomme on board.
Jim Head usually isn't the quickest funny car, but he'll beat you with incredible consistency. He's won 3 national events in just that fashion. Johnny West, he is a professional race car driver from Chandler, Arizona, formerly campaigned his own Top Fuel dragster and funny car, and now he's a hired gun.
And a happy one, I would imagine, having a ride with Roland Leon's team in that beautiful Hawaiian automobile.
Well, you know, Roland doesn't just run the NHRA national events. He match races. He races for a living, so he takes any booking really he can get. Jim Head, well, when he's not racing, he's home running the family electrical business. This could be a good drag race. On paper, they're pretty evenly matched. Their qualifying times were very close. There is Roland Leon sending his driver to the starting line. Hardly ever shows any emotion whatsoever, even if they win the race. So it's a Dodge Daytona body here in the near lane, an Oldsmobile bodied car over in the far lane as they inch forward. Head versus Johnny West.
And as you said, Steve, it's going to be Head who will probably let West beat himself, if anything. Head very consistent. That's
right, but Head is having some problems. There's some oil getting under his tires would be my guess. And it is Johnny West at 581. Roland Leon will not like that number. 248 miles per hour. A dead even lead. West having problems.
Absolutely. And here comes the man we talked about just a moment ago, the Snake, who long association with Roland Leon ended up with him becoming one of the greatest drivers in NHRA drag racing history.
Now here's a car and a driver Eastern fans will know well. Bruce Larson, who has been around for a long time in regional competition and match racing, as they call it. He is now full-time on the NHRA National Event Trail. He's from Dauphine, Pennsylvania, and is now the funny car member of the Joe Amato team. Don the Snake Prudhomme. Look at this beautiful Pontiac Firebird automobile. The Snake debuted the car at the Winter Nationals. He didn't qualify. They had a brand new combination. Had taken a year off. Then he started running racetracks. Bakersfield, Phoenix, anywhere he could go. Experimenting, blowing blowers up, doing everything wrong you could do, learning what to do right. And the Snake is apparently a quick learner still.
Oh, he absolutely is, and he really feels a lot more confident. I see the confidence in him at this meet a whole lot more than we've seen over the years. Last year was certainly a low point for him.
Well, as he told both of us, retirement was fun for about a week. You can bet that Bruce Larson's car, by the next event on the NHRA Championship Trail, the Southern Nationals in Atlanta, will have a Joe Amato-style paint job. I'm sure it'll have that nice candy apple red. Now, there is Bruce Larson. In an earlier race, in fact, in round number 1 today, this man, Mark Oswald, a former world champion, a top racer, was stunned by the performance of Bruce Larson. Larson in the near lane accomplished the biggest upset of this event. What a close race. Well, this man has been racing funny cars for 21 years, but it's the first time we have ever talked down here. Congratulations. You upset Candies and Hughes, Bruce Larson.
Thanks very much. I'd like to know what I ran.
A 568.
That's not bad.
Over 260 miles an hour.
That's the fastest I ever went, by 10 miles an hour.
I understand Joe Amato is now a part of your racing program.
He is very much. Our major sponsor is still Century Tax and Gauges, and Joe Amato stepped in and made us a member of his team, and that's been the whole difference in our success, with Tim Richards building the engines and tuning them, Joe's help, and all the other sponsors that Joe has have been turned over to us, and it's just fantastic.
Well, it thrills me to say, see you in round 2.
We'll be here. Thanks.
Well, let's see if he can make it on to the semis. Competition intensifies here. He is against the Snake on the comeback trail, Steve.
Larson's car is 8 years old, a dinosaur by drag racing standards. Prudhomme's car, well, there's nothing newer, nothing nicer.
And probably nothing lighter. Remember, they will allow a minimum weight of 2,100 pounds in funny cars and a maximum displacement of 500 cubic inches.
There's a lot of racers around here that don't want to find out what that power plant of Bruce Larson's will do in a brand new car. It might scare them. Prudhomme with a snake bite right off the starting line. Larson with way too much horsepower for that old car. And it's Don Prudhomme. He's improving round by round. A 564 at 266 miles per hour.
Boy, good, strong pass. So Don Prudhomme will face Kenny Bernstein, and Bernstein has the lane choice with a lower ET. The other pair, Johnny West against Ed the Ace McCulloch. McCulloch with a lane choice in that pairing. This is going to be interesting. Back in the pits, this is the Kenny Bernstein crew working on the clutch setup, which, as you know, is so critical. You just saw it hurt Bruce Larson desperately as he lost to this man, Don Prudhomme.
Well, this man and this Trans Am automobile are definitely headed in the right direction. A 564, an improvement there.
Well, it's getting a little bit better. We still got a lot to learn.
Is it like riding a bicycle? You took a year off, you still feel as comfortable as you did?
Yeah, I really do. Actually, I feel just fine, you know, the year's rest. I think everybody needs that once or twice maybe in their career. And, yeah, I just got to, you know, run a little bit harder. But, yeah, we're pretty pleased with it.
Is there more there?
I think so, yeah.
Well, there's got to be more there because both Bernstein and McCulloch are running in the 50s. We'll be back with more from Gainesville after this. I'm Brock Yates, and as you can see, the pit area here at the NHRA Motorcraft Gatornationals in Gainesville, Florida, is jammed with exotic machinery. Right, Steve Evans?
As we've told you before, there's a lot to see in the pits at an NHRA drag race besides race cars. If you're a performance bike fan, you are going to love this. This is the world's fastest pro stock motorcycle, the Suzuki of Terry Vance. Now, it weighs in at just 600 pounds, but has 225 horsepower. Now, the rules require that it maintain the integrity of a street bike, kind of like the pro stock automobiles, the fender and the tank. Now, look how deeply this seat is recessed. That's the only way Terry can hang on to this machine. Otherwise, it'd just throw him right off the rear. And speaking of the rear, you can see a huge rear tire, about half the size of a pro stock car, and wheelie bars, just like the pro stock automobiles use. And there's another thing. This is really half a car. A pro stock car costs about $60,000. Terry says, you want this bike? Write him a check for $30,000 and it's yours. But you better know how to ride because it goes from 0 to 60 in less than 1 second.
Well, we had a chance to see exactly how quick that bike at Terry Vance's was when he went up against George Bryce in the Pro Stock Bike Final. Now, these motorcycles have become so popular and so competitive that a new series has been created by Castrol GTX for 7 events on the NHRA National Trail. And right now, Terry Vance is the man to beat.
No question about that, Brock. He's at both ends of the national record. There's Bryce. You can see those long wheelie bars. Now, these bikes ship with an air shifty. You just push a button and they shift automatically. There's no footwork to be done. They left right together. Out of the corner of his eye, Terry Vance could see George Bryce, something he hadn't expected at the finish finish line. So close, it took the electronic computer to call the winner, Terry Vance, at 8:25, 161 miles per hour. Well, Terry, you leave here the Gator Nationals champion in pro stock bike and both ends of the national record. Pretty good weekend.
Yeah, I'll go for that, Steve. I can't tell you. It was a really close race, and I shifted a little bit too soon into second. I thought George might get me there, and then got the Byron Hines horsepower on the top end, so I came out all right.
It looked like the lead changed hands a couple of times.
Yeah, it did. We left, I think, pretty much together, and then I think George got out ahead of me, and then I creeped back up on him, and he got a little in the middle, and then I picked him up on the top. So it's number 23 for us, Steve.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Well, let's take this opportunity to run down the sportsman winners. Terry Vance and Pro Stock Motorcycle, Walt Rhodes, and Top Alcohol Dragster. Top Alcohol Funny Car goes to Pat Austin. Competition winners David Cook. Super Gas goes to Vonnie Mills. Super Stock winner Mike Trimble Jr. The Stock winner Alan Peters. Our congratulations to them all.
I concur with that, Brock, and look at this crowd. Look at on the fences there. They know the pro stock cars are coming. Round number 2 of the factory hot rods. 2,350 pounds, 500 cubic inches, dual 4-barrel carburetors, racing gasoline, and unlike the funny cars, these bodies must conform to their counterparts from Detroit.
Also, Steve, no supercharging allowed. We've got a good pairing here.
You bet. Chevrolet favorite Bruce Allen, the Rear Morrison Camaro from Arlington, Texas. He'll be up against the Oldsmobile of Don Coons from Cayuga, Indiana. Now, Chevrolet, this may be hard to believe for some fans, has had a long dry spell. Did not win a single event last year. It's been Oldsmobiles and Pontiacs and, of course, the Ford of Bob Glidden. Now, they are staged. They take the RPMs well up over 8,000 and then just slide their foot off the clutch and have to make 3 gear changes down the quarter mile. Bruce Allen in the far lane, the yellow and white car. Don Coons having problems. It is Bruce Allen winning at 7:49, 186 miles per hour. Don Coons, he coasted through at 7:88, 175.
Okay, right back to the next pair. This is Jerry Ekman, who has the dubious honor of facing world champion Bob Glidden in the next pairing. But before that, let's go up to the other end to hear from Bruce Allen.
A 7:49, Bruce, will put you in the semis, but that was not a typical Bruce Allen reaction time. What happened?
Just didn't get in there quite right. A little lazy, I guess. Didn't do a very good job.
What?
I got in there a little too early, and Donnie came in late, and I had the engine up and was waiting for him, and I just backed off on the throttle a little bit, and you can't do that.
So, Bruce Allen self-critical about his rather slow reaction time against Don Coons. This man, very seldom ever slow against the light, Steve.
That's right, Bob Glidden, Whiteland, Indiana. Here is Jerry Ekman, Ventura, California, Bill Orndorff's Camaro. A very quick car, a middle-of-the-pack machine. But as we've said before, if you're a Bob Glidden and you just make any kind of a bubble, a guy like Ekman can bite you. He's by no means a minor leaguer. The pro stock car is starting to take more time to stage, much like the dragsters and the funny cars. They used to just rush right up there. So it's Glidden in the far lane. It's Ekman in the near lane. Ford versus Chevrolet. Both drivers, good reaction times. Getting out of shape is the Chevrolet in the near lane. Jerry Ekman, that is going to cost him. Bob Glidden will win it. His sons, Rusty and Billy, high-fiving it on the starting line. And there goes Glidden down to the shutdown area. His time slip will reach 7:44, 187.
Boy, the hits just keep on coming. Bob Glidden barely pops the chute, and here comes Joe Lapone to the line. Now, that's a substitute car. Joe came in here with a brand-new Chevy Beretta. It wasn't quite yet ready for competition, and he kind of begged and borrowed this ride in Tom Wright's Camaro. His opponent will be Darrell Alderman. But before they race, let's find out what Bob Glidden thought about his run.
Bob Glidden, would you be pleased with a 7:44?
Not really. I think I ran quicker than that, Steve.
That was what it was, 7:44.
Yeah. I thought we'd run a little quicker than that. We made a pretty good run, and we'd gone a 4-0 the first round.
It's still quickest so far in this round.
I have no idea what the other cars ran. I think the only pair that ran in front of us was Allen.
Everything go well on the race itself?
Good. We made a perfect run. If we can make a couple more like that, I'll be happy.
Indeed. Thanks.
Thanks, Steve.
Always the perfectionist, always looking for more speed. That is Bob Glidden's trademark. All right, here comes Alderman to the line. Out of Moorhead, Kentucky, Darrell just sort of appeared on the big-time scene later last season. Joe LaPone, though, he's been around for a while out of Berwyn, Pennsylvania, an old teammate of Bill Grumpy Jenkins.
In fact, Grumpy Jenkins is his crew chief on the new Chevy Beretta, and I'm sure that's the motor out of the Beretta in this car. So you got a pair of Chevrolets, a nice light by Darrell Alderman. Darrell Alderman in the far lane was out first for sure over Joe LaPone, and he is going to win it. The elapsed time for Alderman is 7:59. LaPone will be a little embarrassed. A 7:58. He ran quicker but lost to Alderman's starting line hole shot.
There it is, right there. You can see how critical starting line tactics are in pro stock. That little wink of an advantage that Alderman had there was enough to pay off and move him into the next round of competition in pro stock. He's got to be a happy man. To knock off Joe LaPone is a major accomplishment. Identical top speed, slightly lower ET, but better reaction time wins it for him.
Just before he started to climb out, Darrell Alderman looked up and said, "Did I win?" That's how close pro stock racing is. Joe LaPone shakes hands with the man. A fine drive.
Thank you.
Did you see Joe all the way down?
No, I saw him there in the first 2 gears, but you never know whether you jerk the bub or not.
Yeah, and a good job right off the starting line, too. You're sharp today.
Yeah, I feel good.
Do you press the light during qualifying to stay sharp and constantly push that trade?
I do. Most of the drivers just go out there and qualify, but, I'm trying to get on the light, trying to be the best at it.
Practice makes perfect.
That's right.
Darrell Alderman.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. Jerk the bulb from Darrell Alderman's mouth means a red light, which is a major occupational hazard here in pro stock racing. These guys squeeze that light so tight.
I think it means red light. I'm not even sure about that, actually. We'll have to ask him next race. I am sure we'll be seeing a pair of Pontiac Trans Am in this pro stock heat. Lee Dean, Northeast Maryland. Now, in the first round, Dean beat Nick Nicholas to advance here to face off with, from Blacklick, Ohio, Butch Leal, the most successful Pontiac pro stock racer of them all.
Right, Steve. He has really brought Pontiac into the front line of pro stock competition. A competition, as you mentioned earlier, that has been dominated by Fords and Chevrolets heretofore. But, boy, the Pontiac folks have got to be delighted with the way this man has performed with that Pontiac. He has done a super job over the last couple of years. And I would imagine that he's looking forward to some real success this season. That team is getting stronger by the event.
Yeah, it would be a real accomplishment for Lee Dean here in the near lane to beat Butch Leal. I'm sure it would raise his stock at the Pontiac Motor Company. Now, Leal has been known for his starting line hole shots, but he hasn't been pushing the tree quite as hard lately since he has some newfound horsepower, not wanting to risk the red light. He's still good and quick, don't get me wrong. These two guys leap right together. Whoa! Lee Dean almost lost control of that car. He wisely got up the throttle before he hit the wall. Butch Leal, a 7:49. Not quite as quick as Bob Glidden, but good. 186 miles per hour.
So Butch Leal moves into the exclusive semifinals. He will face Bruce Allen. Butch Leal has the lane choice. The other pair, the always potent Bob Glidden against young Darrell Alderman. Glidden again with a lane choice. And now let's go to Steve with Butch.
For Butch Leal, it's a 7:49, but the cars are moving around a lot.
Yeah, what happens is it's real hot today, and the sun's been out early this morning, no clouds, and it's really beating on the track, Steve. And I guess that glue's coming up, and we're just shaking the tires all the way through second gear that time. And I noticed everyone else did the same thing. So
when that happens, what's the physical sensation inside the car for you?
Well, you're just hoping it'll stop, and you can't let off the throttle, of course, at that time. It's not quite that bad yet, but it can get so bad you have to at times.
Can it be painful?
Oh, yeah. I've got out of the other car, and my back be black and blue from the top to the bottom. It shakes so hard.
Let's hope you can get a handle on that.
Yeah, we'll just go back and tighten up the shocks a little and hope we can make it through the race.
Butch, always ready to race. Believe me, as the fans cheer us on here, we'll be back with Top Fuel and Funny Car from Gainesville. Stick with us. Oh, boy, the fans are having fun here at the NHRA Motorcraft Gatornationals. We got Top Fuel coming up, but first, let's go to Steve Evans with Don Perdome.
Don, for so many years, you dominated funny car racing. Now you face the man who is currently in that position. How does that feel?
You know, it's tough to say. You can only ask so much out of one of these cars. No matter the race Bernstein or Hubie race, we're just trying to step up on it a little bit at a time, and I think we got a little bit more left. And obviously, it'd be nice to put him away because he's the hot dog right now, and it'd be kind of nice to put him away.
Before we see that pair, this is Jerry Amato directing her husband back toward the starting line where he will face off against Larry Minor in the Top Fuel semifinals. Now, Jerry's positioning of that car is critical because she and her husband have chosen an exact spot where they feel the traction will be at its maximum.
Larry Minor's crew also has positioned him right in those burnout tracks. If you don't do that, the burnout is a wasted effort. Now, Minor had run in the 520s in qualifying, but since then has not been able to find that kind of performance. Joe Amato a 5:32 in round number 1. The sleek candy apple car debuted at this event. Larry Minor over in the far lane from California. A potato farmer by occupation, a drag racer, an off-road racer for a hobby. They leave real strong and right together. Not much of a hole shot for either driver. Larry Minor, some mechanical problems, and Joe Amato is going to have some pit work to do. A lot of smoke out of that motor with a 539, 257 miles per hour. Larry Minor slowing to a 587.
Let's take another look. A pretty even start. Joe a little bit ahead of Larry. You can see some tire smoke from Amato. That means he's perilously close to losing traction completely, but he hangs on to go on to victory. That's Ed the Ace McCulloch back in the Larry Minor pit complex. He's getting ready for his semifinal run against Johnny West.
Here we go, Top Fuel. Dan Pastorini moving to the starting line. Pastorini has gotten this far on driving ability. He right now is consistently posting the quickest elapsed times in Top Fuel. He beat Dick Le Haie with a slower elapsed time. There was Gwynn getting the kind of traditional family handshake from his dad, Jerry. As they move forward to the starting line, you see a crewman in there kind of leaning out the motor with a little device there. Pastorini has just been brilliant on the starting line run.
He certainly has. He's come so far, so fast.
And again, it's a hole shot by Pastorini. He's away first, and he's going to need all of it. Oh, Daryl Gwynn by a car length, even though Dan had a nice lead one more time. Gwynn, oh, just incredible elapsed times of 5:24. 269 miles per hour.
Boy, yet another run in the 20s that Daryl Gwynn just keeps going quicker and quicker. Let's have another look at that. As you can see, Dan Pastorini out a little bit ahead of Daryl, but not to be. Gwynn drives right past him at half track in a very close, very competitive drag race. Excellent performance by both drivers. So that sets the stage for a very interesting matchup. Joe Amato versus Daryl Gwynn in the Top Fuel final. Gwynn will have lane choice. Let's go down to Steve.
Well, our Top Fuel finalists are set. Joe Amato versus this man, Daryl Gwynn, and you've got a bit of a performance edge. Your 5:24 versus his 5:39.
Well, I'll tell you what. Very much to say. There's a lot of things that can happen in fuel racing. I've set records before at national events and not won them. I'm after this win. The record's great, but I'm after this win here at Gainesville in front of my hometown people. I would just want to impress that upon everybody that I'm going to try my damnedest.
And you love your fans.
You got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very determined young man in Daryl Gwynn. Meanwhile, the engine being assembled in Kenny Bernstein's funny car, he faces a semifinal race against Don Perdome. That's the Joe Amato pit crew working feverishly to replace the engine in his Top Fuel dragsters. Tim Richards and his crew working hard because they hurt that engine against Larry Minor, Steve.
They broke off a stud that holds one of the main caps on. They could have drilled it out and tapped it and put a new stud in, but they honestly think that that new engine may be stronger. They're never afraid to change engines, and that's a rarity. Here is Don Perdome. I saw the look on his face as he got into this car, and you only see it on two drag racing competitors, Don Perdome and Don Garlits. It's a look of total determination, bordering on possession.
Well, how many times we heard over the years that Don Garlits was finished, and we began to hear the last few years that Don Perdome was finished. But I just can't believe it. Those two champions keep coming back. They, as you say, they have that kind of inner fire that just can't be put out. It might get damped once in a while when they have car problems, but that zeal to win, you just can't eliminate it.
But anytime any funny car racer meets up with Kenny Bernstein, he knows that his chances of victory have been greatly diminished. Bernstein, the world champion, the last 2 years. The Snake, of course, years ago won it 4 times. It's Bernstein away first. Bernstein with a beautiful hole shot, but he smokes the tires. Bernstein grazes the wall. And Don Prudhomme goes into the final round. Bernstein for sure was away first. Prudhomme's crew, they just are loving this. A 571 for the Snake. He slowed up a little bit at 257 miles per hour.
This is a rarity in drag racing today. You see Kenny Bernstein out of shape. Lesser men would have gotten out of the throttle at this point, but Bernstein stayed in it, trying to run the Snake down. Consider here that he's probably running nearly 170 miles an hour, and the man just won't give up. Unfortunately, though, for him, the Snake runs straight and into the finals.
A 571, Don, into the final round. Tremendous.
Well, right now it's a little tough to get down the track. I appreciate what you're saying, but it's just a little tough right now, and we just got to sneak up on it, you know.
Well, Bernstein was having his problems in that lane.
Well, yeah, you know, but, you know, we're having ours, too, and being off that time, you know, someone was telling me if Johnny Carson took a couple of years off, it'd be tough to be back on his number, but it's tough, you know. I didn't realize how much time would really affect us.
See you then.
Thank you.
Okay, so Don Prudhomme moves on into the finals. We'll find out soon who he is going to face. In the meantime, the crew works hard to complete that engine change in the Amato pit. Tim Richards directing that giant 500 cubic inch nitro burning engine into the engine bay. They should be ready to go. This is a pretty routine change for these expert crews.
You just saw Bernie Federley, he's the crew chief for Ed the Ace McCulloch, telling the McCulloch to hit it one more time, which the Ace has already done. They do those dry hops to put a little heat in the clutch and to cause the clutch to slip a little more. If on the dry it smokes the tires, they'll do another one. You just saw McCulloch do what they call a chirpy. Well, I'll tell you, drag racing is just full of the vernacular, is it not?
It sure is. You got to bring a dictionary with you to the racetrack to figure out what they're talking about. As Johnny West gets ready to go, that is Roland Leon waving him up to the line. He says, "You're ready." It's up to you now, John.
McCulloch has had the quicker elapsed times round by round. West has been just about a tenth away from him, but who knows what Roland Leon has done to that motor in the pit area. They leave. It's a good lead for both of them. And in the same lane as Bernstein, McCulloch smokes the tires. Actually did a wheel stand while he was smoking the tires. And Johnny West, well, that smoke is from inside the engine. Not a good sign. But West goes into the final round.
I'll tell you what, it wasn't for lack of trying on Ed McCulloch's part. He went up and smoked, but like Bernstein, tried to stay with the car. Pedaled it a little bit, but there's just too much smoke, and he has to back out of it, and Johnny West goes on into the finals. He will face Don Prudhomme, and Don Prudhomme will have lane choice. So the two favorites are gone, and Johnny West is in it.
Well, suddenly, the favorites, the Bernsteins, the McCullochs, apparently start to overpower the racetrack and open the door for a guy like Johnny West.
It's nice for once. Well, let me tell you, all last year was tough for me to get into the final. A couple of times I red-lighted, had the 3-round blues. Finally, I've gotten past that 3rd round and seen the final.
576 will not give you lane choice.
We don't need it. You don't need it here. Both lanes are about the same. We've lost lane choice every run so far, you know. We just don't need it.
You look confident to me.
Oh, we love it. We love it.
Hey, Johnny.
He's having fun. What a professional. He's been around a long time, and he sees his big break right here on the threshold of a championship. This man is as well. That's Darrell Gwynn's pit. They are getting ready for the Top Fuel final against Joe Amato. That's the campus of the University of Florida in downtown Gainesville, where the beloved Gators were the only game in town sports-wise until the Gatornationals came to town. Now they share top billing. That is the pit of Johnny West. They are changing his engine, getting ready for the funny car final. A man who won't make it is Kenny Bernstein. Steve is there.
Well, the world's quickest funny car is a bit battered, as I'm sure are the emotions of one Kenny Bernstein. Was it the racetrack or the race car?
Well, you know, in those situations, it's tough no matter what. We just overpowered the racetrack quite a bit. It shook the tires hard, which we haven't done in quite a while, and then it lost traction. It never really stabilized. It just kind of got the tire loose and kept going. Then it finally blazed them, what they call just smoked them. In fact, the whole cockpit was full. But I looked over, and I didn't see Prudhomme around me yet, and I couldn't quit, so I tried to stay after it. Then he came by, and I said, I'm in real trouble now because I saw the monster wall coming at me, and I said, boy, this is too much for the Budweiser Quaker State Buick. I better get out of it.
Well, you still have a race car. Kenny Bernstein, let me ask you, what does the return of Don the Snake Prudhomme mean to this sport?
Well, it's good for the sport. I said it all last year, and I mean it sincerely. We don't need to lose anyone in any motorsports, and certainly not in drag racing. And Don Prudhomme and Raymond Beadle and Dale Pulte, any of those guys, we need them back because they're good for the sport. But the Snake, 30 years of doing this, a tremendous tradition for him, and he's had a rough last 5 years, and I hope he does well today. Don't misunderstand me. I want to outrun him and beat him, but he deserves it.
Well put. Thank you.
A real sportsman, Kenny Bernstein, as we go to the semifinals in Pro Stock here at the NHRA Motorcraft Gatornationals.
This will be an all General Motors affair. The Chevrolet there from Arlington, Texas, the Rear and Morrison machine driven by Bruce Allen, and over in the far lane, the Pontiac Trans Am of Butch Leal. Now, Leal has been running just a little bit quicker than Bruce Allen. Nothing decisive, just a taste. Now, Leal, as we've talked before, is famous for getting hole shots off that starting line. And I think against a guy as quick as Bruce Allen, he's going to have to be very alert. Allen could run a couple of 100 seconds slower and still get there first. We've seen it happen today, and Bruce Allen would be a prime candidate to do it again. Third stage, the engines come up, the tachometer needles just bury over the pegs, and they're gone. What a start by Butch Leal. 4/100ths of a second. He was away first, and it is Butch Leal at 7:44. David Rear, the owner of the losing car, just can't believe what he saw. Bruce Allen, a 7:52. 186 for Leal, 185 for Bruce Allen.
Well, there was a time when that Rear and Morrison car could just count on monster power to overcome those kind of problems. Not anymore. A lot of guys are caught up, including Leal. As our next pair, Bob Glidden and Darrell Alderman, get ready to go, let's talk to Butch.
A brilliant start, Butch, and a terrific elapsed time of 7:44.
Well, that's great. It felt real good that time. It left decent. And
you left decent, I might add.
Right. It didn't shake that time. It's getting cooler now, Steve. You notice how those clouds have come around. We didn't shake, so that's a big part of these cars. And I got Bruce as probably one of my nicest friends in all of drag racing, and we play golf together a lot. And last year here, we raced each other, and it was the same results, but you know, the Rear and Morrison crew ran awful good in today's time during the heat.
Bob Glidden is up against a youngster, Darrell Alderman. What do you think?
Well, let me tell you about Darrell. I've been watching him all day long, and he's been hitting those lights I should be hitting. And he had a 420 for light, the first one, a 450 then. I can look for Bob to might get beat here, you know, because you can shake the tires, but it's calming down now, so Bob ought to run about a 39.
We're about to find out.
Well, we'll see what kind of a prognosticator Mr. Leal is as the world champion Bob Glidden gets ready to go in that beautiful Ford Thunderbird.
And don't think Bob Glidden is unaware of the reaction times today of Darrell Alderman, as Butch Leal was talking about. And Brock, it's kind of like shooting dice sometimes in Las Vegas. You'll get on a roll and you just can't do anything wrong. Other days you're so far off the light you don't know what's happening to you. Alderman seems to be on that roll. It would take to maybe upset Bob Glidden as they move in very carefully. And this is the slowest stage so far today. I don't think it's any kind of a psych job. Everybody being ultra careful. And it is Alderman away first, but not by much. Bob Glidden has already closed the gap. Bob Glidden is driving away from Darrell Alderman. His elapsed time, well, you heard it first from Butch Leal, a 7:39. That's exactly what he ran.
The crystal ball of Butch Leal is absolutely perfect. It was a good race. Alderman did well. He got away in very good shape. Got a little out of shape, but about right here, and that was the end of it. He just had to get out of it for a second. There you see the Camaro a little bit out of shape there. And at that point, Bob Glidden is gone. There, the two boys, a high five, the traditional signal of victory for the Glidden team. Not too bad. Pretty good form, I'd say. So we've got a super matchup in the Pro Stock final. Butch Leal, Bob Glidden, and Glidden has a lane choice, but not by much.
Bob, Butch Leal was down here, and he said it's cooling off. You'll see Glidden run in the 7:30s. He was right, 7:39.
Good. If we can pick it up a couple hundredths, I'd be happier yet. I don't know what Butch ran, but you know how he...
44.
He is really tough on me normally, you know, on the tree. So I'm going to...
Beat you up on the starting line a little?
He beats me up all the time. I'm going to have to do my best on the starting line and make a good run.
It'll be a great final.
Sure will. Thanks.
All right, so Bob Glidden heads for the Pro Stock Final. Goes over to congratulate Darrell Alderman on an excellent effort. We'll hear more from him in the future, believe me, as the Johnny West crew continues to wrench that engine back into his funny car. The bare bones of a funny car, but it'll be ready. Everybody seems confident, and these cars have been torn apart a lot more than this before a final run.
Things a lot more calm in the Don Perdome pit area. Apparently they hurt no parts in the semis. Just a matter of routine maintenance. Should be a great final. The action here at the NHRA Motorcraft Gatornationals has just riveted this crowd to their seats. I don't think a single soul has left, and we have got the Pro Stock finale coming up. It will be this man, Butch Leal, up against Bob Glidden's Ford Thunderbird. Leal heating up those rear tires, and Leal doing almost a funny car style burnout. Usually they just move a few feet with a Pro Stock, and Glidden follows suit. Glidden and his family barely got this car into the staging lanes on time. Moments ago, this was the scene by their trailer, an engine change, and not for performance. The engine that was in the car during the semifinals had a cracked cylinder head. There was no time to fix it. They found it late in their maintenance, a new bullet inside the Ford Thunderbird, and a bit of a question mark, I'm sure, in Bob's mind. He had not run that engine this weekend here at Gainesville. Butch Leal in the near lane, Bob Glidden in the far lane. You heard Glidden say in his interview after the semis that Butch likes to beat up on him on the starting line.
Well, we'll see what happens. These two guys among the very best. Butch Leal with a big reputation on the lights, but you don't win 6 world championships like Bob Glidden being exactly lazy on the starting line.
No, you certainly don't. Leal is ready. Glidden is in. Glidden moves too soon. Bob Glidden has been disqualified. Maybe he did not have much confidence in that engine he put in. Only he knows. Butch Leal wins the Gatornationals Pro Stock title. And this time, Brock, it was Bob Glidden beating up on himself on the starting line.
Oh, he has to be furious with himself, Steve. But actually, this is an occupational hazard in Pro Stock racing. You got to squeeze the light if you're going to win.
Well, Butch Leal wings in here with a 7:47. That's an elapsed time, and that won the Motorcraft Gatornationals. Great job.
Thanks, Steve. The right lane, you know, was a little slower all day, and I knew we had it, and I'm glad to see the thing run 747. The guys at the shop did a great job, and, you know, the ride shop there on the car, and, oh, man, I'm just beating Bob is just, I hope it's a habit.
He doesn't. He was telling me that you always beat up on him, he said, on the starting line, and he planned to get up there and maybe give you a taste of your own medicine. He left a bit too soon.
I didn't see his red light.
Yes, he did.
He was about a half a car ahead of me in low gear, and all of a sudden he quit, and I went, all right. I didn't know he red lighted because I'm trying to concentrate on so hard on the starting line, you know, semifinals and finals there, and God, that's great to win here. Last year, you know, I red lighted and
I wasn't going to remind you that.
Yeah, I know, but I gave it away. I was thinking about it all the time, and I told you at Baton Rouge that we took a chance, the last chance I was ever going to take, and I haven't done it since, so I've just been driving well.
Again, congratulations.
Hi, thanks very much, Steve.
And our congratulations, too, and that's Gil Kirk, the car owner for Butch, and they got to be a happy team. Let's see now what goes on in the funny car final. What do you think, Steve?
Well, I think we got a couple of rookies here, Brock. Only a collective 60 years worth of drag racing experience. Last year, as you know, the Snake took a rest for an entire season. When he went to the races, you could almost always find him riding in the push car of Roland Leong. Roland, one of his closest friends, an employer many years ago, in some ways got the Snake started in big time in NHRA drag racing. And Roland right now may be one wishing he hadn't let the Snake ride along all that much.
He may have learned a lot during that year's layoff. You know that this man, Johnny West, inside Roland Leong's Hawaiian car is definitely not lacking in experience nor in desire. He has yet to win here at the Gatornationals. On the other hand, Don Perdome has a bunch of wins here in the Gators. So, but I don't think that means anything at all. Those guys they don't deal in past history. You're only as good as your last drag race.
That's right. And a drag racer's attitude is directly related to his last time slip. Not the one before that, if it was a world's record, the one he just got. Here is Johnny West, and he knows he's got an opportunity here to make some pretty good headlines in the drag racing press. Roland Leong walks away. He trusts Johnny West. He says he's the hardest working driver on the car that he's ever had. No prima donna here. The Snake, he's not afraid to get his hands dirty either. They have done everything they can do. The crews, it's now up to the 2 men strapped in those cars. Johnny West is away first. There's fire underneath the Hawaiian car. Don the Snake Perdome is long gone. The return of the Snake is now complete. A 572, 260 miles per hour, puts him in the Gatornationals winner's circle.
And what a way to do it. Johnny West only goes a matter of a few feet, and a giant fire underneath that car puts him away. Don Perdome is back in it.
Don Perdome gets a well-deserved hug from his wife, Lynn. Gets a little more than a hug, actually. And Snake, a brand new race team winning the second time out. Did you ever even believe that was possible?
Well,
Really?
Well, not exactly. I figured we're going to have to struggle a little bit more than we did to get in the winner's circle. We had a couple of good breaks, Steve. Bernstein's car is obviously still the killer car, and we're going to take this car home back to California and run and test and work on it because I'd like to win the championship again.
That would be, what, the 5th time?
Yeah, I think so. But, we were hooked up with Skoll, and that was probably one of the best things ever happened to me in Pontiac.
By the way, in case you don't count, I do. This is the 5th time you've won the Gatornationals, but 4 and 5 had a pretty good separation.
Yeah, well, it's been a long time since a national event, and I just couldn't be happier. I mean, I don't even know what to say. It's a dream come true.
We love having you back.
Thank you.
Well, we've got 2 more cars left to come down this quarter mile at Gainesville. One of them belongs to the fastest young man in the history of the sport, Darrell Gwynn from Miami, Florida. He's in his car, he's buckled up, and he's ready to go.
This event started with 700 cars. Now there are 2. The fastest accelerating machines in the world, Darrell Gwynn, the record holder for both ET and miles per hour, got the handshake from his dad and still a little more advice. Over in the other lane is the fastest car at this event, Joe Amato, 276 miles per hour. Amato has a new engine installed for this round. Only he and his crew chief, Tim Richards, know what that engine may be capable of. Darrell Gwynn, of course, has set the record at 5:22. Gwynn has set world records before at events and not been able to get through the final round. This is it, the end of 4 days of competition here in north central Florida. It is Joe Amato off the line first. He just drilled Darrell Gwynn on the line. Gwynn trying to come from behind, but he cannot do it. New engine and all. It is Joe Amato at 5:29, 274 miles per hour. His quickest elapsed time in the event. Gwynn was 1/100th of a second behind, but the whole shot exaggerated that at the other end to a full car length.
Well, we've seen some mighty interesting results here. Upsets in Pro Stock and Funny Car, and now Joe Amato comes back after kind of a dry spell last year to take over the young favorite in the lights and win here at the Gatornationals. That caps a day of upsets.
Not only did this man slap a hole shot on Darrell Gwynn he will never forget, but you ran a career best of 5:29.
Steve, once you're in the final, it's anybody's race. The TRW Keystone Automotive Dragster is really, it's hot. We're going to win. That's 6 finals in a row and 2 runners-up. Things always happen to me in 3s, and that's 2. We got 1 more to go.
And I've said this before, but it's tough to make an engine change and run as well. I don't care what anybody says.
My crew, Tim Richards, he builds engines like super stock engines. I was so confident putting the engine in. I just felt good about today. My group guys felt good. We didn't want to go out and try and run a 5:25 and beat us. I told him if he give me 5 low 30s today, I'd win, and he gave me a 29 for a bonus.
And your driving was brilliant.
Yeah, it just felt good. You ever come to a racetrack and you feel hot? Well, today I felt that way.
It felt good because it was good. Joe Amato, Motorcraft Gatornationals Top Fuel Champion. Victories are especially sweet when you haven't had one in a while. You remember how much they mean to you. Brock Yates is right now with Darrell Gwynn.
Good race, buddy. Good race.
Well, Darrell, I guess this is a testimony to the unpredictability of this sport. Everybody, I guess, in the place figured that you had it. Such a beautiful afternoon, just terrific running, and just lost it by a wink.
Yeah, that's drag racing. I'll tell you, 5:30, I would have thought 5:30 would have been the #1 qualifier and clean house here at the Gatornationals, but we ran some consistent 5:20s and 5:30s, and we left it alone for the final. I kind of had to hold the brake in the final on the run because I wanted to spin the tires, but hey, we did the best we possibly could here.
Well, you did a super job, and Joe, of course, came up with another almost a full 10th to beat you, and it was really pretty surprising, I would imagine, for you that he showed you that much power.
Well, I was pretty surprised at half track when I saw him right there, so nonetheless, I knew before any of y'all knew that it was going to be one heck of a drag race.
Well, our congratulations, first of all, for a fantastic weekend, a record setting, and we're sorry you didn't cap it off with a victory.
Well, thank you very much.
Well, that young man has nothing to be ashamed of. Our congratulations to all the winners in all the categories. I'm Steve Evans for Brock Yates. Thanks for joining us from Gainesville Raceway.
The executive producer for American Sports Cavalcade is Harvey M. Palish. Produced and directed by John B. Mullen. Promotional consideration provided for and a fee paid by the Style Auto World Championship Team, the nation's premier source of fast lane fashions. Style Auto, the champion's choice for the style of your life. The American Sports Cavalcade is a presentation of Diamond V Sports.